on with my Read Aloud series from Indian Economic Development, textbook for Class 11. I'm reading the last chapter of the book Comparative Development Experiences of India and its Neighbors, that is China and Pakistan. And this is in Unit 4. In this, the sixth subheading 10.6, that is Development Strategies and Appraisal. It is common to find developmental strategies of a country as a model to others for lessons and guidance for their own development. It is particularly evident after the introduction of the reform process in different parts of the world. In order to learn from economic performance of our neighboring countries, it is necessary to have an understanding of the roots of their successes and failures. It is also necessary to distinguish between and contrast the different phases of their strategies. Though countries go through their development phases differently, let us take the initiation of the reforms as a part of reference. We know that the reforms were initiated in China in 1978, Pakistan in 1988, and India in 1991. Let us briefly assess their achievements and failures in pre- and post-reform periods. Why did China introduce structural reforms in 1978? China did not have any compulsion to introduce reforms as dictated by the World Bank and International Monetary Fund to India and Pakistan. The new leadership at that time in China was not happy with the slow pace of growth and lack of modernization in the Chinese economy under the Maoist rule. They felt that the Maoist version of economic development based on decentralization, self-sufficiency, and shunning of foreign technology, goods and capital had failed. Despite extensive land reforms, collectivization, the Great Leap Forward, and other initiatives, the per capita grain output in 1978 was the same as it was in the mid-1950s. It was found that establishment of infrastructure in the areas of education and health, land reforms, long existence of decentralized planning, and existence of small enterprises had helped positively in improving the social and income indicators in the post-reform period. Before the introduction of reforms, there had already been massive extension of basic health services in rural areas. Through the commune system, there was more equitable distribution of food grains. Experts also point out that each reform measure was first implemented at a smaller level and then extended to a massive scale. The experimentation under decentralized government enabled to assess the economic, social, and political costs of success or failure. For instance, when reforms were made in agriculture, as pointed out earlier, by handing over plots of lands to individuals for cultivation, it brought prosperity to a vast number of poor people. It created conditions for the subsequent phenomenal growth in rural industries and built up a strong support base for more reforms. Scholars quote many such examples on how reform measures led to rapid growth in China. Scholars argue that in Pakistan the reform process led to worsening of all the economic indicators. We have seen in an earlier section that compared to 1980s, the growth rate of GDP and its sectoral constituents had fallen in the 1990s. Though the data on international poverty line for Pakistan is quite healthy, scholars using the official data of Pakistan indicate rising poverty there. The proportion of poor in 1960s was more than 40%, which declined to 25% in 1980s and started rising again in the 1990s. The reason for the slowdown of growth and re-emergence of poverty in Pakistan's economy, as scholars put it, Our agricultural growth and food supply situation were based not on an institutionalized process of technical change, but on good harvest. When there was a good harvest, the economy was in good condition. When it was not, the economic indicators showed stagnation or negative trends. You will recall that India had to borrow from the IMF and World Bank to set right its balance of payments crisis. Foreign exchange is an essential component of any country, and it is important to know how it can be earned. If a country is able to build up its foreign exchange earnings by sustainable export of manufactured goods, it need not worry. In Pakistan, most foreign exchange earnings came from remittances from Pakistani workers in the Middle East and the exports of highly volatile agricultural products. There was also growing dependence on foreign loans on the one hand and increasing difficulty in paying back the loans on the other. As reported in the Pakistan Annual Plan for the year 2011-12, various factors contribute to slow growth of the Pakistan economy. To quote, the economy is under stress as the floods, delays in the implementation of economic reforms, dilapidated security situation, and low foreign direct investment inflows are hampering growth in all major sectors. Massive floods took a heavy toll on agriculture and infrastructure, while energy crisis, coupled with steep decline in foreign direct investment, is soaking up business activity during 2010-2011. Pakistan's economy is provisionally expected to grow by 2.4% during 2010-11 over previous year against the target of 4.5%. Besides facing high rates of inflation and rapid privatization, the government is increasing the expenditure on various areas that can reduce poverty. So, conclusion. What are we learning from the developmental experiences of our neighbors? India, China, and Pakistan have traveled more than 5 decades of developmental path with varied results. Till the late 1970s, all of them were maintaining the same level of low development. The last 3 decades have taken these countries to different levels. India, with democratic institutions, performed moderately, but a majority of its people still depend on agriculture. Infrastructure is lacking in many parts of the country. It is yet to raise the level of living of more than one-fourth of its population that lives below the poverty line. Scholars are of the opinion that political instability over dependence on remittances and foreign aid, along with volatile performance of agriculture sector, are the reasons for the slowdown of the Pakistan economy. Yet, in the recent past, it is hoping to improve the situation by maintaining high rates of GDP growth. It was also a great challenge for Pakistan to recover from the devastating earthquake in 2005, which took the lives of nearly 75,000 people and also resulted in enormous loss of property. In China, the lack of political freedom and its implication for human rights are major concerns. Yet, in the last 3 decades, it used the market system without losing political commitment and succeeded in raising the level of growth along with alleviation of poverty. You will also notice that unlike India and Pakistan, which are attempting to privatize their public sector enterprises, China has used the market mechanism to create additional social and economic opportunities. By retaining collective ownership of land and allowing individuals to cultivate lands, China has ensured social security in rural areas. Public intervention in providing social infrastructure, even prior to reforms, has brought about positive results in human development indicators in China. So that brings us to the close of chapter 10, and by now, after listening to the reading of this chapter, you would have figured out comparative trends in various economic and human development indicators of India and its neighbors, China and Pakistan, and you would be able to assess the strategies that these countries have adopted to reach their present state of development.